And he said, hey, I've had that happen before. Just call them and show them that you repaired it, and they'll drop your bill by half.
Oh, good.
So I'm like, okay, well,
Let's figure out where it is.
let's figure out what the deal here is. My leak guys won't be out there till the middle of the month. They canceled on me again because of the rain.
Ugh. Yep.
Okay, that's fine. Where's the place to ski in Colorado? I've been there a couple of times.
What do you mean?
I mean, you can ski everywhere, but I mean, where's the...
So,
I've been at Purgatory, Steamboat.
yeah, Steamboat Springs is good. There's the A Valley, right? Arapahoe Valley, which I believe is Copperstone, Breckenridge, and one other. But we usually go to the more western. So we'll do Beaver Creek is where we've gone.
Okay.
Vale Beaver Creek is out there. Aspen's just way too crazy and stupid.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But Beaver Creek is one of our favorite mountains there, and so is Steamboat.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, good.
Welcome to the show, Jason Bible, Robert Orfino, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Today we're going to talk about, actually all week, we're going to talk about goal setting.
Goals.
New year, new you. Do you feel like goals? Do you feel like a new you?
I do. I sure do. Yes.
One day later, you're like,
It's going to
new me.
last 18 days, but that's it.
So here's the little deal. Every year they're able to scientifically determine through math, the power of math.
When New Year's resolutions fall off.
And this year it's January 18th.
Yeah.
So there's actually some other morbid statistics.
Drinking water, right? That's one of my
You're
goals.
good. I'm on coffee number 3. That's one of my goals. Not really, but
My goals have hypertension by 45.
yeah.
Right?
You know, last time I went to the doc, he said, I don't know what is going to be your ailment when you age, but right now it's not going to be hypertension. It's probably going to be something else. So I'll tell the rest of that story maybe another time. All right, so we're going to talk about goal setting today. And I'm not a big New Year's resolution guy, and I was watching one of my podcasts this weekend, and a lot of guys were kind of making fun of resolutions and said, you know what, I'm not a resolution guy. I like reassessment.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was good, and let's talk about what you assess where you're at now, where you're trying to get to, and maybe you need to make some course corrections there. But you're already started on that path, right?
Yep.
One of the things I found fascinating is one of the guys brought up, they said, the 2 biggest goals are lose weight and get out of debt. And he used to be a debt guy, and he said, something like, what did he say? The average American was $38,000 in debt or something crazy like that. And then he had some other stats he was kind of rattling off. So a lot of people make resolutions, they just never get there.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about goal setting and stuff in kind of more general terms, but certainly in real estate. And this year's theme is 10 houses.
Yeah. Stupid.
Yeah. So everyone makes this like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to own a finance. I'm going to do these notes. And then I'm going to do 10 flips and 6 things. And they're going to do all that. They're going to go to the next webinar and get their head full of all these ideas that they're never going to be able to implement. In fact, there was a guy, I called him out on Facebook. He's like, here's all the books I'm reading this year. And there must have been 50 books. And actually there's a GIF that's running around Facebook right now that shows like how to be a man, the 50 books you need to read. And it's like all this stuff you've heard, right? And the first question I ask is, how are you going to implement all that?
Yep.
You're going to get all this knowledge, but then what? Like, how about you just take one of those books and implement 10% of what's in it? And you'll be much further ahead than any of that other crap you're going to read the rest of the year, right? Yep. But that kind of falls on deaf ears. It's, you don't get the Facebook flex, the social media flex.
Oh, you don't
from one book.
No.
Yeah.
I think, or even one deal. The problem is, fundamentally, like you said, it's money. It's, 3 things, right? Money, it's going to be your wealth. It's going to be your personal traits, and it's your relationships. Mm-hmm. Those are the 3 big things that people are going to work on this year, right? And the reality is there's very few people on this planet that can absolutely do all 3 at once.
I would even argue that just because, we've been around so many people for so long, and you and I are going to have the same conversation when real estate events start, when they say, wow, I can't believe you guys bought this building. It's been so crazy to watch all the growth. And I'm like, you do realize you can do the same thing. So the reality is 99.9% of people really are not going to change. That sounds terrible, but let's be honest.
Let's call it 90%.
90%.
Let's give some hope.
Give folks a little bit of hope. You know, I just, when I see that, I'm like, you know how hard it is for a human being to change?
Yeah.
Like, it's really, really hard. So why don't you
program not to?
That's true from an evolutionary standpoint, right? In fact, one of the webinars I was on this week, this guy comes out and says, do you know the difference between entrepreneurs that survive and thrive and those that don't? He said their ability to change.
Yeah.
He said that's the only. Now, why are very few entrepreneurs, I want to say, somebody have to look this stat up, but I want to say somewhere between 70 and 80% will have less than $1 million in receivables, which is absolutely true. And then when you get into, you know, net revenue and all that other stuff, it's a very rare group.
Yeah. I mean, you've talked about it, and we've used it, and I do a webinar on goals. You know, the average household in America makes $60,000.
That's right.
And there's hundreds of thousands of people jumping up and down and screaming in the mirror and doing all that nonsense that they're going to make $1 million this year. They're somehow going to figure out how to 17x their income.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Right.
I don't think people realize to be a $1 million gross wage earner what that takes and how it's an infinitesimally small group of folks.
So before we completely depress everyone on here,
well, no. What I think is really important. No, here's why I like to lay the landscape like this.
Yep.
Because what ends up happening is someone says, "I want to make $1 million," and I'm going to say, "Look, that is really, really hard. Let's set a goal that's more reasonable that you can achieve." Like these wild, audacious goals that you hear these idiots talk about. That's really just moronic, right?
Yep.
It's kind of like saying, you know, Jason, I've never ridden a bike before, but I want to be an elite cyclist. I would love to ride in the Tour. There are guys my age that have ridden in the Tour de France before. I would like to ride in the Pro Tour. And I'm like, okay, so the guy that's riding in the Pro Tour that's my age, like Tom Brady's my age too, right? They started a long time ago.
Yep.
And now part of that is luck because of the age, but real estate's no different. It's like, oh, I want to make $1 million in real estate. Okay, well, raise your hand if you've made $1 million in real estate. You go to any of these networking events, it's me, you,
a
couple guys on the stage, and there's 1,000 people in the room, right?
Yep.
So the reality is that you're trying to shoot for a goal that takes 10, 15, 20, it takes a lot of experience to get there. So let's talk about a more reasonable goal, because I'll tell you what, if you didn't buy any houses last year and you buy 1, 2, 3, 4 houses this year, you're much closer to making that $1 million goal than if you sit at home and say, well, I'm going to read this book and this book, and well, I don't want to buy this house because I only have this much money and I'm trying to make $1 million with $100,000. And it's like, dude, you're totally missing it.
Yeah.
Your life, here's the reality. Life doesn't work that way.
Nope.
It absolutely does not work that way. We were playing the lotto this weekend because, you know, it's up to $1 gazillion, right? And so my dad always tells me, he's like, you seem to be pretty lucky. You need to play lotto.
Yeah.
And if you pull up the lottery statistics, regardless of how much you win, it's something like 90 to 95% of lotto winners are bankrupt in 3 to 5 years.
78, something like that.
Yeah. Are bankrupt in 3 to 5 years.
Yep.
So even if you make $1 million, do you have the emotional maturity?
No, it's the richest man in Babylon, right?
Right.
If we
yeah.
just redistribute it all, give me 5 years, and it's all going to be back in the
It's
same
all going to be in the
guy's
same
pocket,
place.
right?
That's why I'm never worried about. Everyone gets worried about market cycles. I'm like, no, because we change faster than anybody else I know.
Yep.
So we may get our tails kicked in for 6, 8, 12 months, but we'll be back and we'll make twice as much money as we in half the time, right?
And I think we're going to spend a lot of time here tonight just discussing how you got to separate this stuff, right? So when we come back from the break, we'll be talking about hate. We got to sort this stuff out. And I'll just real quick, 30 seconds. Obviously, we're talking about real estate, and we want to have 250 people become real estate millionaires, right? That's our goal for the mastermind. I am not in any way, shape, or form telling people that I'm also going to make 200. Not only am I going to make you a real estate millionaire, I'm also going to make 250 people have better relationships right? Or be do more self-development or become more. We're not doing that, and somehow our little slice of the world, we seem to pile all these things in, right? If you do real estate, man, you can become really healthy. Like, well, that's two different things.
Yeah.
There's a step process, right? So we come back from break. We're going to talk about the steps that you need to take to get real results. This is Robert and Jason with Mr. Texas Real Estate. This is the Texas Real Estate Radio Network. You know, the folks that actually can do all three, you know, they're who they are, right? They're just they're rock stars, right? What I have found, we'll do this when we come back. What I have found is that it starts with the money problem.
Yeah, it's a symptom.
Yep.
Yeah, I just pulled it up. 70%. Go ahead and fire it back up, A-Rock. Welcome to the show. Jason Bible, Robert Orfino. All right, so we just pulled it up. 70% of lotto winners file for bankruptcy in a few years after they win. That's just the ones that file for BK.
Yep.
My guess is that other 30%, a significant portion, just blow it all and they don't file for BK, but they're exactly where they were before because they don't have the skill set to manage. So even if I gave you $1 million today, would you even know what to do with it?
I would.
Well, yeah, I mean, you and I do, but I mean, like, I shouldn't say, you guys give us $1 million a week around here. So it's like, we know what to do with that. But I mean,
No, the most person is not going to know what to do with it, right? And
Yeah.
That's the problem.
So the reality is that when all this goal setting starts, it's like, look, this is a classic Jim Rohn thing. And Jim Rohn's a motivational speaker, but I think he was one of the few guys who was actually reasonable. And so one of the things he said is, look, the secret to life is growth.
Yes.
That's really the secret to life. So because humans are, once they achieve something, they become dissatisfied with it and they want to go to the next level, right?
Sure.
That's the human achievement. That's why buildings are built and mountains are conquered and all that other stuff. So Jim Rohn would say, well, what is growth? Making reasonable progress in a reasonable amount of time.
Yes.
And I think a lot of these goals I see online is unreasonable amount of progress in an unreasonable amount of time.
Yep.
People overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but they grossly underestimate what they can do in 5.
Sure.
So I think if we sit down and make goals that are reasonable, like, hey, I want to ride the Tour de France. Look, that's not going to happen. Not in the first year.
Yep.
Could it?
Yep.
I mean, stranger things happen, right? Over 5 years, could you be in crazy cycling shape, right? Could you be in crazy weightlifting? All that. In fact, you could do it in less time. But we've got to have a reasonable goal, reasonable amount of progress in a reasonable amount of time.
Yep.
And I know that doesn't sell books and seminars and all that, but it's the key to success.
That's part of the problem. That whole self-help world and the Instagram influencer world and, you know, the Facebook, it's all show.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so we kind of get wrapped up into that. And we have to really set some real basic stuff, right? If you know nothing about real estate, but you want to make $1 million in real estate, well, here's a book you should read, right? Read The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller.
Yeah.
Read that first, okay? And you've got time, and that's always the other second thing is like everything has to happen in the next 90 days and 90 days and 90 days. I'm like, hold on, man. That's not going to happen in 90 days. Oh, man, don't be a buzzkill, right? Don't be the grumpy guy. No, I'm telling you, I've been there. It doesn't happen in 90.
Here's the problem. I would much rather us have the conversation up front to say, hey, it's going to take a little bit longer than for you to be 90 days in, frustrated, and quit.
And that's what we know in our world. You know, there's a 91% quit rate.
Yeah.
They just quit. So I saw a post on Facebook, and I'm really disengaging from Facebook. But I saw one that said, hey, how do I find people? How do I get to find people? How do I learn how to use other people's money to buy real estate? And I just went and looked at the Facebook profile. There's nothing on our profile, right? There's less than 90 days of real estate stuff, and there's nothing there. And I'm like, you do it for 5 years, right?
Right.
Took me 7 years to really finally do a transaction with no money, right? So put your head down and keep doing it. That whole I'm 90 days in and I want to use other people's money to make myself rich is like ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane.
Absolutely ridiculous. But, it looks sexy and people are going to do it. And then here's the other epiphany I had this weekend. Because I did my goals webinar, and I'll do it again mid-January. I'll probably do it on the 18th, which will be fun, right? We're not attracting those people anymore.
Oh, no.
I've come to the realization that, we still talk like we got a bunch of wholesalers following us, but we don't.
We don't anymore. No.
We really don't. The folks that we're talking to, they've come because we've asked them to come. We're attracting the people we want to attract. They have W-2 jobs. They have money in a retirement account. They have some cash. They've got good credit score. They're trying to figure it out, right? Mm-hmm. Every phone call I've had on this mastermind stuff over here in the last week, everyone's relatively in the same position. Mm-hmm. A couple people ahead of each other, some people a little behind, but it's all relatively the same position. So we need to talk and dedicate ourselves to the folks that we want to attract. And so I would say to them is, you have time, and let's just, again, pick off one or two things. That's all we're trying to do. Again, I'm not solving your relationship problems. I'm not going to make you thin. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. But I am going to tell you to read the Gary Keller book. Yeah. Right? And then from there, you got to do the assessment. And in our world, it's a personal financial statement.
Yep.
That's our assessment, the PFS. And if you get asked for your PFS and you don't have it,
it's not good.
It's not good because the people are asking you for that are people that are going to be able to make your real estate career better.
I was actually updating mine this weekend and looking at what I want to do this year, which you and I keep talking about the 10 houses. We just haven't put them in our own portfolio. We keep putting them in the fund and everywhere else.
Everyone else's portfolio.
I think we're going to be done by the end of February.
We should be, yes.
I think I'm going to buy two. I think I bought two on New Year's or day after New Year's. But anyway, but the reality is you've got to make that. What is the personal financial statement? It is the assessment of where you're at currently.
Exactly.
And it is impossible. I'm going to tell you this right now. Impossible for you to become successful if you don't know where the origin is. What's the starting point? And if the starting point is I'm $70,000 in student debt, I've got, a home loan that's for a $150,000 house, but the house is worth $200,000. I've got $10,000 in, I've got $30,000 in car debt, but my car is only worth $25,000. Like, you need to put down that balance sheet of assets and liabilities. And then we need to look at where the income is coming from. And we need to look at your credit score. If you do not have an accurate assessment of where you're at, the likelihood of you figuring out how to get where you want to get is going to be impossible because you just don't have. It's kind of like saying, I'll tell this story. This is a good story. So one of my mentors, Bob, when he came in to run a new department, there were a whole bunch of people in there. He had an entire staff meeting like we had this morning at 11, right? Yep. And they went around the room and people said what their goals were. Some were education, some were financial related. And then he said, okay. Then he had a follow-up meeting a week later. And he put a 5-year calendar, 1 month at a time, around the conference room. And then he would pick people out of the room and say, okay, what's it going to take for you to achieve that? Oh, it's going to be 5 years for this, 3 years for that, 4 years for this. And then he started counting down. He was like, okay, well, how old are you? And then people started to get really emotional because what they realized is in order for them to hit those professional goals, they didn't have enough time.
Right.
So the reality is you've got to sit down. You've got to sit down and say, okay, this is where I'm at now. This is where I want to get to. Let's talk about the reasonable progress in a reasonable amount of time.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't do that now, you're going to run out of time. That is, when you really get down to it, the only thing that we can't get more of is time. It's the only real expense when we are going to do something is time. So I can tell you, me personally, spending time on something is the thing of most value. It's not the money.
Yeah.
I really don't care about the money. I mean, I care about it, but I don't really care about it. It's the time. How much time do we have to spend to close this deal? How much time do we have to spend to make this a good relationship? How much time do we have to spend to get in the shape that you want?
Right. Hey, Rob, you want to build a trailer park with me? Nope.
You and I looked at a big development project we can make a ton of money on.
Nope.
You and I looked at it and you were like, dude, it's at least 7 years.
Yep. No, thank you.
And it was like, I'm not interested. And then you asked me, do you really want to do this over 7 years? I was like, I kind of want to get into the private placement world, maybe corporate takeovers and stuff. And so I'm like, I don't know if I want to be dealing with some, luxury, high-end, 200-acre development project 7 years from now. So that's where you really sit down and say, okay, here's my goal. Here's where I'm at. How long is it going to take me to get there?
Absolutely. And speaking of time, we're going to take a little break here. This is Robert and Jason. This is the Texas Real Estate Radio Network, and we will be back. Which is why, the big thing is what we promise in that mastermind too, which I feel very, very comfortable in. And I've been into other groups, and I've seen other gurus who've promised so much.
Oh yeah, they promise all this crazy crap.
And I'm just like, man, 5 years we can get you 10 doors, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Let's just go get it.
My big thing is it's like, all right, let's sit down and have a conversation. Let's just get you one house. And we can get you one house, pays for the mastermind for the next 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And then all of a sudden you've got all this more knowledge, right?
That's right. Yeah, go ahead and fire back up, A-Rock. Welcome back, Jason Bible, Robert Orfino, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. So you start with the assessment, right?
Yep.
And so let's say our first year goal is to buy one house. What I don't think people realize is there's a big difference between knowing the path and walking the path.
You bet.
When you buy that first house, when you buy that first apartment, when you buy that first storage facility, that walking through the path, then you begin to realize, I read the book, but now I'm walking it. Now it makes sense.
Yeah.
So and I'll give you a great example of this, and I tend to be very short and kind of, I don't want to say rude, but kind of brutal with people. When somebody will say, well, Jason, you can do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, you can try doing X, Y, and Z, but I can tell you after 1,000 deals between Rob and I, that may work 0.001% of the time. But if you want to be successful, this is what it's going to take.
Yeah, there's no need to reinvent anything here.
No,
it's already been laid out. Gary Keller wrote the book almost 20 years ago. Just do what he did in the book.
It's no more. But Jason, it's got to be more sophisticated than that. No, not really.
Nope, I don't know.
Not really. It's funny. Somebody said, marketing has changed so much in the last 20 years. No, it hasn't. It has not. The data has gotten better, but it's the same stuff. Oh, well, social media has changed this. It's changed relationships. It's changed how humans interact. No, it's not. It's just happening faster. That's all that's really happening. It's the same stuff. It's the exact same stuff. It's just happening a little quicker.
Nothing different than we're doing than landlords have been doing for the last 100 years.
Yeah, so why are we making this more difficult than it needs to be?
Well, I think part of it is people like to make things difficult, and the other part of it is somewhere someone got convinced that there's a way to do this with no money.
Well, I agree that people make decisions and then justify how complicated it is based off that decision. When I'm like, it's really not that complicated. And then I think the other thing is it's much easier to say that because all these changes in technology are making things harder because it's an ego-saving excuse.
Yeah.
Oh, well, this is hard because of social media. It's getting hard because it's taking that much more in marketing closed deals. And it's like, well, it's either that or you're just not good enough.
And again, I think the realistic goals is real important, starting with an assessment. So we're bottling up here. Starting with that assessment, where am I at? Where's my personal financial statement? How much debt do I really have? How much income do I have? How much free income will I have? What's my credit score? Figuring out all these things. And then, okay, what's the next two steps?
Right.
Right? And so we tell people come to our mastermind, like 90% of everything you need is out there.
Yes.
What you don't know is you're having a problem with the loading order.
That's right.
Right? You're having a problem putting them, all the pieces are on the table. You're just having a problem making them fit together.
So what happens is if you actually go to mrtxre.com and click on Mastermind, at the bottom it has our 12 first steps.
Yep.
There's no secrets there. It's exactly what we do with the folks that join our mastermind.
Yep.
You follow those 12 steps in sequence and get all the information. That's the other thing. You get all the information to go to the next sequence. Then it makes sense you start doing. The problem is when people start skipping around.
Yeah, we have it, and I gently remind them, hey, have we done those 12 things?
Right.
It's like, no, but I think I can go get my apartments. Okay, have we
done the 12 steps?
Have we done those 12 steps?
And you talk to these folks, and sometimes they get a little angry with you because they're like, why are you talking to me like a child? I'm not talking to you like a child. I'm just asking you to do these first 12 steps. My favorite is, although I hate the sports analogies because they're all zero-sum games, but I'm like, hey, did you play college or high school sports? Yeah, I played basketball. Okay. So when you got out of, I don't know, let's say you got out of church and you were going to, let's say, evening basketball practice. Maybe you went to Wednesday night church and you got basketball practice after that, right? Did you show up in your, choir outfit or your loafers and all that? No, I went and got changed and we got warmed up. I'm like, that's exactly what we're doing here. We're getting ready for game time.
Yep.
So game time requires some preparation before you even step on a court, before you even practice. Requires some preparation before you practice.
It does.
I got stuck out on the bike last week, and I didn't check the evening temperature, so I'm riding out, and then I came back. I was freezing to death, and I'm like, obviously, we did not prepare.
Yeah.
It was a 30-mile ride. We didn't prepare for the 15-degree drop in temperature on the last 10 miles, right? So if you fail to prepare, you might get stuck out in the cold.
Yeah, and again, for us and for all of you, and if you're doing this alone, more power to you. If you're in our mastermind, great. If the in-between is Patreon for $25 a month, I mean...
Do it, yeah.
Yeah, everyone should be joining Patreon. It should be a no-brainer.
Dude, it's $25.
And then tonight we have the Q&A, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to do Q&A.
Monday nights we have the first Monday night of each month we do a Q&A for Patreon members only.
I'm picking up HEB at 7. So as long
It's
as
9 o'clock. It's
perfect.
fine.
I'll be done
Yeah,
in time.
it's 9 o'clock. Fine. Yeah.
I'll be freezing steaks and stuff.
Yeah. Nice. But there's just steps, and we want to help people get those first 2 steps done. That's really, really critical. And that's what we do in our mastermind, and that's what we're going to do with our Patreon members is like, hey, man, where are we going to do those first 2 steps? We're going to do a bonus segment here online, so if you're listening on the radio and you want to learn why you shouldn't start with apartments, we're going to do a bonus 15 minutes on that. But it's all about those first steps. And getting that stuff lined up. Again, knowing where you're starting from, right? Mm-hmm. And being able to move and understanding the time in which it takes is critical. I'm 1 year over my goal. I wanted to retire at 55. It looks like 56 it's going to happen, which is okay.
So I got a, by the way, let me pull this up. On my calendar, I saw this. You had me put it on the calendar. You could retire now.
Oh, I could, yeah.
You could totally.
I made a commitment to you, so that's what it's
fine.
about. Yeah.
That's fine. But I put this on the calendar. Damn it, where is it? Maybe it was on the 3rd. Was it yesterday? You had me put something on the calendar for an email you and I have to write about Rob's retirement. I'll find it somewhere. Where did it go?
What's funny is people. So it's 35 months. It's not 3 years anymore. It's down to 35 months.
Down to 35. Oh, here it is. Tomorrow, Rob goal email, stay or retire. I don't remember why I put that on here, but it was we're supposed to send an email out about staying or retiring.
Well, we're going to stay. We want to get a little more wealth.
Yeah.
But it's funny now when people are like, I talked to someone who's wants to join the mastermind, and they're like, hey, what happens when you leave? You're leaving in 3 years. I'm like, well, I'm not leaving, but yes, I am. I will be moving on, and I won't be doing the day-to-day, right?
You tell them you can still text.
No, but
still call.
I know, but it's finally. Well, weird thing is finally the people around me, like even my wife and my in-laws, are like, well, where are you going to go in 3 years? I'm like, and I always correct them. It's not 3 years. It's 35 months, right? Well, where are you going? Well, I'll probably be in Corpus, a little Dana Point, a little more traveling. That's it. We got travel club. It's going to be exciting. And it's sinking in.
Yeah.
I've been talking about it for 5 years.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I've been talking about it for 3 years, and I wanted to retire at 55, but I was like, now we're here. Like, we're halfway through.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wow, he's still talking about it? I guess he must be doing it, right?
Oh, wait, you guys are serious about that?
And that was a goal that was set 3 years ago before I moved to Houston with the understanding of I need to do this. Mm-hmm. I'm analyzing the marketplace. I'm analyzing the transaction structure, and here's how I'll get there the fastest. Mm-hmm. Right? And so that was 3 years ago. I'm still not there yet. I'm halfway through, but we're still moving forward. If it's going to take me 6 years, right? It's going to take you 5. It's going to take you 7. It's going to take you 3. It's going to take you 10. What it's not going to take is 90 days.
That's right.
Right? And so for the folks in our world, we understand that this is a long haul, right? And we're still here. We're still on the radio. We've got a bigger building. We're not going anywhere because we're hitting that stuff. A lot of people that were flashes in the pan, we're going to make $1 million this year, all that stuff, they're long gone.
Yeah, I will tell you this. We may float in and out this place isn't going anywhere.
No, we're here.
This thing is not going anywhere. But life is going to look a little bit different 3 years from now with a net worth of close to 180 million. So it's like it's going to be a little bit but this place is still going to be here.
Yep.
These things are still going to be going on. I was upstairs last week. I think you were out running around, maybe looking at job sites or something like that. And I remember walking from the back of our office up to the front. Our offices are already full with staff.
Yes.
I'm sitting there in the back of my mind. I'm like, did we buy a big enough building? Like, that was seriously my thought. Because every time we move into an office space, it's a vacuum, the void that gets filled, right?
Yeah.
Everybody was here, and I was like,
yeah, we're actually one short to do it right.
I know. We're missing just a couple more people, and I'm like, we're going to have to take this whole wing over here because we have a wing that's open right now. And, yeah, it's crazy. Trust me, this is not going anywhere, folks. I can tell you that right now.
The good goals are going to take a little time. All right, this is Jason and Robert and Texas Real Estate Radio Network. We'll be back briefly. Was that 4 or 3?
I think it was 3. Yeah.
Okay, good. Cut this next one short, whatever it is, okay? Yeah, we probably will need to take that C suite back there.
I think we are, yeah. And I don't know who we'd put back there.
Well, we're going to hire at some point we're going to need middle managers, right?
Yeah.
I'm on a lot of emails. I'm like,
yeah. You got more than I do. I only read about half of them. I start going through it, and I was like, okay. Yeah. I'm literally checking my email 24/7 now. Before I go to bed, when I get up, breakfast, lunch, dinner, all that. Otherwise, I just can't keep up with it. Ooh, I can see some of y'all who are poking around in our portal.
Stuff,
yeah, you guys are in Wealth Block looking at deals.
Hey guys, if you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit your subscribe, please. Set your notifications. We'd love you to do that. We're going to be talking about goal setting all week long. So we're going to do 5 of these. 4 of these, Monday through Thursday, will be done. Friday, we'll be heading down to Corpus, interviewing some people down there. But we want you to get your year started right. And again, we're talking to folks that have. Let me put it this way: if you're broke, we can't help you. Right?
I can't. I can't.
You got to go get a job. We can't fix broke.
The only way I can do it is become an EXP agent in our team and start grinding as an agent.
Yep. But most people are looking to become a millionaire when they're broke and they don't want to give up anything, right?
I just read a stat: 7% of households are millionaires, and I'm willing to bet 90% of those are folks who saved for retirement and are retired and have $1 million, $2 million, $3 million to live on. It's not like, jets and bottle service and all that other nonsense. It's just, it's very conservative. I've got my nest egg and I'll spend it till I die, right?
All right. Then you can have the great life. Then you can have a great, I get it. We'll come back and we'll bring us in.
Oh, I thought we were already live.
No, I was just talking to the bunch of folks online.
Welcome back, Jason Bible, Robert Orfino, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. We are live talking about goal setting, and we were just talking about percentage of millionaires and all that. So 7% of households are millionaires, and I think the vast majority, probably 90% of those, are folks who save for retirement.
Yeah, absolutely. Millionaire next door, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yep. I think most of them are. No, there's not a lot of athletes, right?
No.
Or tech CEOs, right, who sold their business at 22.
Right.
Not a lot of those.
No, it's pretty small.
So it really leaves you up to the fact that, hey, you're going to have to work for a good portion of your life, and if you do the smart thing and you have a good job and you get raises and you have a dual income household, then you can go ahead and buy 10 houses and have a really good retirement.
Yeah.
Right? And at that point, here's the reality. The point that I wanted to make, and Catherine is meeting with someone who's going to a couple tomorrow because they want to understand a few things. But entrepreneurs kill themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The suicide rate for entrepreneurs is usually double the national average. There's a lot of stress when you jump in all the way. This is why we tell people don't lose your day job, keep your day job. And we want to really make a strong transition. But the folks that are all out there, I'm 100% gold, I totally get it. That's excellent. But there's dangers along the way. And we really want to protect our folks, right? So that's why we're telling people, like, do not quit. Keep working, right? Just keep that income. That's a big thing. Because what happens is when you start stretching yourself as an entrepreneur, I can tell you that all the relationships around you go bad.
Yeah, just because the stress.
The
right?
stress, right? So I get really upset when I see folks talking about real estate is going to make you healthier and give you better relationships. I'm like, it's not. It's just the opposite. And most of us cannot do more than one of the health, wealth, or relationship thing. It's difficult. You can try and get two done, but it's difficult. Doing all three is damn near impossible.
Well, and let's go back to the conversation. We know that, the human experience is one of to be happy is constant improvement, right?
Yep.
And the reality is that you will never have perfection, all three of those. It's not how it works.
Nope.
But if the secret to life is growth and it's reasonable progress in a reasonable amount of time, as long as you're tracking along and things are getting better, does that mean that you're not going to have challenges? That's ridiculous, right? You're going to have challenges in all those areas, right? But as long as you're moving in the right direction, I think that's the way to go.
And if by the age of 55, money is not a problem,
yeah,
right? It really allows you, the next two things are going to be your health and your relationships.
Right.
You really have a lot more time and a lot more resources to focus in on that.
Right. So I just pulled up 2020 U.S. annual sales for full-time businesses. 7% are over $1 million. That's gross annual sales.
Wow.
So when I hear stuff like wholesalers are like, yeah, we're totally killing it, blah, 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 I'm like, no, you're not. Like statistically, you're not. Unless you want to share your tax returns, which
it's coming
we're
up.
going to do this year.
Yeah, coming up.
We're going to share our tax returns this year. So, the reality is that most will never really get that big. Small business annual sales, full and part-time, again, 7%, less than over $1 million. It's just the likelihood of being a big, business that makes over $1 million a year is very, very small.
Yeah, it's difficult. Yep.
And then, I gotta see what's the number of people that actually make more than $1 million. It's pretty small. I'm gonna guess it's 0.01%, but let me look here.
Right, and the top 10% I think is 429,000.
Top 1% is 429,000.
There you go.
And it gets
The 1%ers.
yeah, it gets real. What you don't realize is that people have these numbers in mind, and they don't realize that the air gets real thin real quick.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I've written about this a couple of times. It's like when you really start looking around, who is in the top 1% of anything, right? Let me give you an example. So somebody brought up on one of my webinars I was on how to master something. Mastery takes 10,000 hours.
Sure.
10,000 hours to be in the top 1%.
Yep.
But one of the guys on this webinar said, yeah, but people miss the point of that book. The point of the book was you can become proficient after 40 hours. And 40 hours of study and practice puts you in the top 20%. So the difference between the top 20% and the top 1% is 9,980 hours.
Such a great point, because people do not look at these degrees, right? These different shades. And it's like, well, I've got to do this. Like, slow down,
to be
dude.
at the top of the top of the top.
Yeah, but why do you want to be there?
Right.
What's the point?
I always Jason, I'd love to follow you around all day and see what you do. And I tell people, you do not want to be me. I tell you, Elon tells everybody that. You really don't want to be me. You really don't. It takes a freak to do this. You don't want to do this, right? The term is actually called apex fallacy. And that is, you look at the top tier in that group, whatever it is you're trying to achieve, and you go, I want to be that. Because everybody who does that is at that level. That's not true. In other words, everybody who works out at the gym every day has got 5% body fat and looks like a bodybuilder. That's absolutely not true, right?
Not at all.
Everybody who rides a bike, everybody who shoots a gun, everybody who dribbles a basketball, that's not true. Everybody who's a real estate investor is worth millions and millions of dollars. That's not true. 90% of real estate investors own less than 2 homes.
Yeah.
So when you own 3-4 houses, you're already in the top tier of the top tier.
That's it.
So
again, we're not trying to create Sam Zells here. We just want you to get your 10 doors and then sell half, pay off the other half. And again, if you can't manage 5 properties, then you're in the wrong world. Period. So having those managed and reasonable goals are over with reasonable expectations over a reasonable amount of time is critical for us.
Yeah.
And again, you're going to hear over the next 30 days about. I saw one of the greatest things ever.
What's that?
The your vision board kit.
Ooh.
50% off, Jason. And I'm like, well, what is in the vision board? I know what a vision board is, but this is for people who are too lazy to cut pictures of boats and jets and cars out of magazines themselves.
That's funny.
It's like, if you buy the vision board kit, I can almost guarantee none of that's coming true.
Yeah.
Right? And again, we live in this whole thing with this Tim Ferriss world, this 4-hour world is not real.
No.
Right?
Tim works more than 4 hours.
Of course he does. You got to put your time in. You got to figure some things out. And then you can enjoy it, right? You can enjoy it, but, still owning 5 properties is going to be, 20 hours a month. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to manage it. Or you hire a manager and it's going to be, 5 hours a month.
Yeah, the top 0.1% earn about $1 million a year. 0.1%. So I want to say there's 165 million wage earners in the United States. So that would put you at top 1% would be 1.6. So we're talking about 160,000 people, 160,000 households. Is that it? I mean, that's a really, really small group. So when people start talking about making $1 million a year, I'm like, you don't get it.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us tonight. Make sure you're checking us out all this week. We're going to be talking about goals, how you guys can make sure that you're hitting the things that are important to you. This is Robert and Jason, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Let's everyone hang out because we're going to I just want to get a little bonus section here on, because I've gotten this question now 3 times in the last week.
Okay. Oh, this article is phenomenal.
All right. This is a bonus segment you want to record for radio? Hey, welcome back, everyone. Robert and Jason here, Mr. Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Remember, if you want to talk to us, just text us at 281-401-9008, 281-401-9008. So, Jason, I've gotten this question now three times in the last 72 hours.
Okay.
And they're like, well, why are you focusing on houses and why aren't you moving right into apartments?
Oh, here we go. This is going to be a good one.
And again, it's we talk about it. Our ultimate goal is to have 5 properties. They can be 10 doors, 20 doors, whatever, free and clear.
Right.
If we have that as a basis, then you can go do anything you want.
Those houses ought to make you somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 a month.
Absolutely. Yep.
Net.
So, understanding that's really important, having that as a basis. And they're like, well, why wouldn't I just go and get an apartment with 24 doors? And there's some critical things that the gurus are not telling you. Okay?
Uh-oh.
One of them is money, and the biggest one. So unless you have a proficiency to raise private capital, then you're going to have to go to a bank.
Yep.
And you're going to have to go to a bank that does commercial loans, not short-term, long-term. Mm-hmm. And that's usually a community or regional bank.
Yes.
We've talked about this before, but that is typically a loan committee and an underwriter. Mm-hmm. Underwriter grabs everything, puts your package together, sends it over to loan committee. Loan committee sits down once a month, and they go through all the loans, usually in one day or two. Mm-hmm. Go through everything. And at that loan committee level, nobody knows you.
Nope.
They don't know who you are. And while it may have been easy to go and buddy up with Eddie and Johnny and gotten your loan, or talking to these other guys and working it all out and getting your hard money loan, right? It becomes almost impossible to do that. There's not a lot of hard money lenders that will lend on commercial properties, right? And there's guys like Blake, right? He's going to help find almost any type of loan, but ultimately you got to get it into that 5-year loan at 4.5%, right? Under 6. And so to make the numbers work, to make the real cap rates and real numbers work, if you don't have a couple things, if you don't have one, the experience of managing properties before that, you just don't get the loan.
That's right.
They want to know, well, how many doors are you managing now? Well, none. This is my first apartment. So then what happens? You've got to go JV with someone.
I will never forget when we had a conversation with our first commercial bank, and they said, yeah, you guys are buying this 30-unit apartment complex. I'm like, yeah, but we flipped 1,000 houses. Well, how many 25-unit apartment complexes have you owned? And I'm like, this is our first one. This is ridiculous.
Yep.
It was pretty funny. But they want to see that experience. They want to see that resume, right?
That's one, right? And so then you won't be able to get that money. Then you're going to have to go into doing the whole syndication world, and you're going to have to become proficient at raising private money. And again, who's going to lend to you or who's going to invest in you if you've never done a deal?
Yep.
And so what winds up happening is you go in and you drop, I don't know, $25,000 for these apartment guru guys, and you wind up realizing that, hey, I have no experience. I can't do it.
Yep.
And so what winds up happening is you wind up just becoming an investor, or you try and get onto the Class B shares guys world where you're, you're principal on the project, and it's a really hard road to hoe.
Yep.
Versus having 10 doors with a mix of multifamilies, 2, 3s, and 4s, and being able to sit down at the bank and say, not only do I have experience, but I have this other thing that's always needed called collateral.
Mm-hmm.
Does the property collateralize itself? No. Well, then where's the other $1 million?
That's right.
So if you don't have the collateralization, you're in trouble. We have a banker down in Corpus, and his thing is cash and collateral. If you can prove it to me, I'll do the loan.
Boys, I need cash and collateral.
Cash
Says
and
it just like that.
Yep.
I imagine I'm wearing a hat, too.
Probably.
Cash and collateral, boys.
Cash and collateral. That's what I need. If you don't have it, you're wasting my time, and you can't do it. So, okay, now where's that coming from, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, if you have 10 doors and they're free and clear and they're throwing off $10,000, $20,000, you're going to need 6 months of gathering those resources. Jumping right into that apartment world by yourself, to me, is very, very dangerous.
Yes.
Right? And so then it becomes, because we talked to so many people with so many, there was one investor who's just like, this thing's only worth this amount of money, you're at 70%, you're going to find an idiot. It's like, well, okay, stop.
Oh, I love that guy. So we sent out a note to see if anybody wanted to buy a note on a beach house.
Yep.
And we were paying, well, I won't get into the details, but he basically said, well, you guys there's only like 15 or 20 grand in equity in this thing. Like, you guys must think I'm an idiot. And I was so tempted to write back and say, dude, this thing is going to net 30 grand a year.
Right.
And what's the note? $1,000 a month?
Not
I'm
even.
like, you don't even know what you're
Not
talking
even.
about. Never
Yeah.
mind. You don't even know. It's so funny. It's one of these, I've been an investor and broker for 25 years. And I'm like, and you still haven't learned. So
Right.
I'm not going to teach you.
So running up against those folks, you're going to have to basically be able to explain yourself and say, hey, no. Here's my track record. We're doing Airbnb. The debt service coverage ratio on Airbnb is 2.0. This one is 2.4. Our average is 2.0. This one's 2.4.
Which means we can cover the debt service by 2.5 times. That's unheard of.
Right.
Let me put it this way. You can raise all the money you want from non-QM lenders, meaning commercial lenders, at a DSCR of 1.25.
Yeah.
And we were double that, which is amazing.
So, his position is we're idiots. Like, why would you ever do that? And you're going to run up against a lot of folks who are going to tell you, hey, you need to do apartments. You'd be dumb to do single family. And the biggest gurus out there, why would you want to own 4 units? They're the worst. But understand where that motivation is coming from. Understand where that conversation started. And it usually starts with a guru who's trying to sell you something.
Yeah, I always like to, when someone is telling me, Jason, that's not a good idea, don't do this, don't do that, I'm like, okay, what are you selling me?
Right.
Because you're trying to convince me of something. So what is it you're trying to convince me of?
Tell me where you screwed up. If you want to share your bad experiences, great.
Yeah,
if you're just being a parrot, for Ron the Grand or someone like that. Well, what are you doing? Who cares?
My favorite were all the guys that were emailing me when we were buying this building. And
Yeah.
don't do it. What are you doing? It's crazy. I'm like, well, what is your experience in commercial real estate? Why wouldn't you buy an office building? Well, Jason, you understand, once Corona's over, no one's going back to an office.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me? People are clawing their eyes out at home because they want to go to an office 3 or 4 days a week.
I just read a YouTuber. I saw a YouTuber online saying, don't buy commercial, Jason. Why are you buying commercial? Okay, well, we get it.
I was doing a happy hour with a buddy of mine they're one of the largest, they are the largest industrial commercial broker in the state. And he's like, dude, we had a great year this year. We're going to have an even better 2021. I'm like, I don't get these guys that say commercial is bad. I'm like, now there are certain sectors that are going to have some challenges, right?
For sure.
But you get it for the right price, like hotels right now. If you just get it at 50%, the numbers work.
Going all the way back to my original point, though, having those 10 free and clear doors opens up a whole bunch of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And allows you to take advantage of. So we're in our mastermind. We're like, hey, man, you want to do apartments? That's great. Let's just go get some doors free and clear.
Yeah.
Then you can do anything you want. You want to do trailer parks. You want to do storage. You want to do, I don't know, boat docks. I mean, the one guy talked about docks he wants to build.
Yeah.
It's like, you can do all of that. That's great. But let's have this building block over here, which will open up the doors to the banks who want to lend you money but want to see experience in collateral and cash flow. It'll open up the doors to the management company who understand that you know what they're doing. You're not going to get snowed over by these things, and be able to have the experience of dealing with those 40 tenants in the past so that you can deal with your next 20.
Right. A good way to put this is, let's do the fundamentals.
Absolutely.
Let's get to the fundamentals first.
Absolutely.
And if you guys are, whether it's your career or sports or whatever, you've got to be good at the fundamentals. The fundamentals is a little single-family house.
That's it. Hey, this is Robert Jason. This is Texas Real Estate Radio Network. We'll be back. There's your bonus. I told a couple people to watch.
Got a bonus. You know what our bonus is lunch.